founder here at Solstice in Sonoma County and Marin County. I'm very pleased to have with me here 6 feet away with the amazing Gina Vance, mind-body mentor. Gina has been with us here as part of our teaching team in Marin County, teaching mind-body journeys for a weekly class. She's also in private practice in 3 counties in the Bay Area. She's a clinical hypnotherapist, mind-body mentor, and inner spirit journey guide. And we're very happy to have her with us today. She's here to answer some of your questions, help us move through this time of adversity. I would love to start off with a sentiment that one of my friends just recently posted that kind of echoes where everybody is today. And it says, I lie in my bed and find myself alternating between periods of anxiety, resistance, tears, and laughter. I feel like I'm 2 years old again emotionally. Everything is just so very close to the surface. Every time I feel like I'm getting a grip on things, some other reality looms in and I feel swept off my feet again. There are so many trails of thought inside my mind. Is this the Titanic moment of our civilization? Is this the dawning of a new consciousness coming to life? Can we really survive on canned soup? I can't decide which one to go down. For today, maybe I'll experiment with putting all the thoughts aside for a while, as if there were something any of us could think our way out of anyway. So that, turn it over to Gina.
Hi everyone. Yeah, Kayse, thank you for sharing that, because that last piece about being able to think our way out of this, that's her inner wisdom coming through, because we're not going to be able to think our way out of this. However, there are different capacities that we're now challenged to access in order to move through this and to steer it into ways that are beneficial for us individually and collectively. So the first thing that I want to make really clear is that our trauma is up. All of us, everyone, our trauma is up. It's on the surface. And very simply put, trauma is simply any experience that we've had in the past that was overwhelming to us and we felt powerless to do anything about it. And whoever you are and however you've been raised, everyone has experienced some form of trauma, some more than others, some less than others. It doesn't matter. As a human being, we have all experienced trauma. And now all of us are re-experiencing our traumas that haven't been completed yet. So when the person that wrote in said that she's feeling like a 2-year-old, that's brilliant, because there is likely a 2-year-old part of her that is activated. It's on the surface. It's having its authentic experiences. And the other thing that I want to make really clear, Kayse, is that it's completely natural for us to be experiencing all manner of emotions. Whether we consider those emotions positive or negative, whether they play themselves out in our life in detrimental ways or beneficial ways. All of the emotions that everyone is experiencing are completely natural. And one of the key pieces that we'll talk a little bit more about as we go on is that when we begin to understand that those various emotions, whether it's the fear or the pain or the giddiness, the laughter, they're all coming from different aspects of us, key pieces, different parts of us. And so one of the practices that we want to consider is just thinking about the possibility of a community within us. When we talk about wholeness consists of many parts. So there are many parts in each of us that are having different experiences within the same situation. And so what our inner work can do for us is to help us to recognize that parts of us are having certain experiences. And then we can reach for whatever supports us and helps us feel stable and calm so that we can tend to those parts and honor their experience. First and foremost, it's really important to honor the experience rather than trying to push it away, trying to repress it, because most of us have lived long enough to discover that that isn't really very effective, especially in the long term. So honoring the experience that your part or your parts are having as that kind of observer or witness, and connecting to the resources that help you to feel taken care of no matter what is happening, so that you can tend to them. So that brings us to what I've discovered really are the three things that need to happen anytime we're approaching any creative project, which is basically what we're in right now. We are being challenged with a huge creative project. And when I first started out in healing work about 20 years ago, I was armed with all kinds of techniques. I knew techniques nobody else knew, well, hardly anybody knew. But what my work and what my clients have taught me is really, it's not that complicated. And indigenous peoples have known how to do this stuff since forever. And it's what we're being called to do communally, globally now. And those three things are very simply, one, to connect to resources. Resources outside and around you, like toilet paper, right? And interestingly enough, the old alchemists, that turned things into gold, one of the materials that was primary was fecal matter, right? So connect to resources. Outer resources, toilet paper, food, whatever you need. But also inner resources that support you. And those will be unique to you. And how do you connect to them? You simply move your attention inwards, you breathe, and you ask for them to come. And they will be there. It's part of our training in this work is to teach ourselves to become more receptive to the help that is available to us in our inner world. In the inner world of our subconscious, our psyche, our superconscious, whatever name that you want to give it, however you understand it, these things are available to us in our inner world. They may show up as a wolf, as a Native American, as the Prophet Muhammad, as an angel, as a feather, as a rock, however they show up, it will be uniquely supportive for you. So the first of three things is to connect to resources, outside and around you and inside you. The second thing is to clear inner clutter. So right now, a lot of us have a few extra hours in the day that we're not commuting. We're not in the car on our way to some kind of work. And there have been plenty of books written about how clearing clutter can change your life. So you can clean out drawers, you can clean out your garage, you can organize your closet. But perhaps more importantly, you can take an opportunity to clear the clutter inside you. There's lots of clutter in all of us. Much of it has been given to us. A relative gave us something ugly, but we felt obligated to keep it, right? And so all of us are loaded with plenty of stuff that has been given to us. Maybe it was a well-meaning educator that gave us some clutter that we're carrying around that really doesn't serve us, or it doesn't fit. So there's all kinds of clutter in us, and it's not difficult to clear it out. So most of us, if we're relatively healthy, we poop every day, right? And so clearing clutter is just another form of pooping out what is no longer beneficial to us. It at one point served a purpose, maybe it nourished us, supported us in some way, and now it's gunking us up and keeping us from experiencing a kind of clarity that can help us be creative. So connect to resources, clear clutter, inner and outer. And then the third thing, which is, in my experience, the most powerful and important and utterly transformative is to bring your parts back home that you got disconnected from. So, Kayse, you were talking about how many people have been calling in and sharing how they just are beside themselves. They just feel like they're not in their bodies. It's overwhelming, it's too much. And that's completely understandable, because part of our inner genius, when we're experiencing things that are overwhelming, where we feel powerless to do anything about it, is to leave, to take a break. And oftentimes those parts of us that leave will come back home. But many times those parts are lingering, waiting for us to retrieve them. And this practice of reconnecting to the parts of ourselves that we've become disconnected from has a few different names. Not actually many, because until recently it hasn't really even been acknowledged for as important and helpful as it is. In indigenous American traditions, sometimes called soul retrieval or spirit retrieval, all indigenous cultures understand how this works, and it's part of their healing methods. But very simply, when we're little, we come into a family and a community where we understand very quickly that certain parts, certain attributes, certain parts of our personality are not welcome. They're not perceived to be okay. They might even be perceived to be dangerous or threatening in some way. And so we're amazingly ingenious at just disconnecting from those parts. And sometimes we tuck them away lightly, sometimes we tuck them away quite deeply and bury them in order to keep ourselves safe and also to stay connected to community, which is a really loving act. So I want to make it really clear that all of these ingenious ways that we have learned to cope and to survive and to thrive over the years have nothing to do with weakness or dysfunction. They're really the best we could do in the circumstances that we've been in. And the circumstances we've been in have not been balanced. And, right, that's just, people have been doing the best they could with the things that were unfulfilling and disconcerting. And now it's just really not working. So this is an opportunity that can really inspire us and actually drive us to our resources. So, Kayse, in most of my work with private clients, they don't come to me and spend the money because, though I have had a few that they just wanted more joy. Mm-hmm. Most people are in extreme discomfort, a lot of pain or a lot of fear, and they've tried a lot of things. And so they want to go deeper, even though it's very natural for people to fear going deep. And that's almost a universal fear. And so right now we have the opportunity to have little to lose by going deep. And you will not know this until you experience it for yourself, that the deeper you go, the more beauty you find, the more power you find, the more value you find. However, there is a fear that has been given to us that don't go there. Don't be messing where you shouldn't be messing. Pandora's box, right? So naturally, we are afraid that we might get into something that we can't get out of, or we might become even more overwhelmed than we already are. And so the only way a person really is going to know the truth of that is to have the courage to do it. And how do you do it? That was my quest when I got into this work, because I could not find out how. I could not find out how to get myself out of the pickle that I was in. Overwhelming, excruciating, going from one conventional medical healer to another, and then all the oddball healers I could find, just whatever would help. And so through the course of that, and over a fair amount of time, then I discovered what actually works. And then working with my clients over the last 20 years, it's been refined and simplified. And at some point in the last only 5 years or so, I realized that this is what the healers of old have always known to do. These things are indigenous to all of us. And it's just those three things. Connect to resources, clear clutter, and love your parts back home, or reintegrate. Reintegrate your dissociated parts. So, how do we do that? Right. That's what we do in our meditation class here when we have had it every week. It's the thing that I teach to every client, and it's what I do myself. And so those three things can be accomplished with 4 simple steps. And the first step is to move your attention into your body where all of that pain and fear and anxiety and worry is right now. And the second step is just to notice that it's there, acknowledge it, allow it to be as it is. With mindfulness practice, we're taught to give it a quality of attention that is kind and curious, which is a wonderful practice. However, when the stakes feel really high, that can be too much to ask. And so all of us can notice, even if we don't want it, we don't like it, we hate it, it hurts, we can acknowledge that it's happening. And we can allow it to happen, even, for a brief moment. And oftentimes that alone will help to calm and stabilize our nervous system. Our body will often soften, and the parts that are inside of us, in that inner constellation that makes up the whole of what we are, will start to feel safer because you're home. So attention in the body is key. And then the quality of attention that isn't threatening, it's not scolding, it's not shame on you, stop it, shut up. It's just notice, acknowledge, allow. And then use your breath. The breath is not required, but it can be extremely helpful. So the soft belly breath is kind of a basic stress management protocol that's been around for a really long time. One of the ways that you can make it work more effectively for you when you are experiencing trauma activation is to just imagine offering it as a gift. So a lot of us, when we learn a technique, we want to do it the best that we can. And sometimes that to the body will be perceived as forceful. And then that will engender a natural resistance, especially when there's other scary stuff going on. And now you're trying to force me to breathe deeply. And especially when scary things are happening, that to the body is not a time to breathe deep and go all noodly, right? That's a time to our body to keep our breath shallow. Just be aware of the big chunks of the most dangerous things so that we can survive. And this is often attributed to the so-called primitive brain, but I want you to know that that's really your genius danger brain. It's not very PC to refer to tribal people as primitive now, and that's for good reasons, right? Just because they practice things that we don't understand doesn't mean that they're primitive and not as sophisticated and smart as we are. Your so-called primitive brain is your genius danger brain that wants to keep you safe. It wants to help you survive, right? So the sooner we just notice that it's activated, we acknowledge it, we allow it to be activated, then the sooner we can breathe and settle and honor and acknowledge what our danger brain is trying to get across to us. Because these painful and frightening emotions and sensations in our bodies, they want us to take an action to get safe. That's what our danger brain is about. Take an action, even if it means freezing. Don't move, don't breathe, be barely perceptible. Right? So either freezing is an action, running is an action, fighting is an action. There's actually 9 trauma responses that we all do, which are ingenious and brilliant. And they're there to help us. So when you find yourself frozen in fear, when you find yourself angry and agitated, when you find yourself wanting to go take the people that are responsible for all of this down, that's normal, that's natural, and is just a part of the process. So the danger brain, if you call it the primitive brain, that's fine, you can call it whatever you want. But I want to honor that part of you that wants to keep you safe by looking for danger. Now, when we're in that mode, we're looking for danger, we're only really seeing the big chunks. Our capacity to perceive nuance goes away. Also, our capacity to be creative goes away. So that's the value of noticing when danger brain's activated, acknowledge it, allow it, just breathe as a gift. You can take it or leave it. And then step number 4, with that breath that activates the right side of your brain, ask for help. Just simply ask for help. Breathe, go to your right brain, and there will be something that responds that is helpful to you. It will calm, settle, and stabilize your nervous system. And then your danger brain will recognize that either the danger's past or you've taken an action. So just to review those 4 steps to accomplish the 3 things. First is, no matter what's going on, emotional, physical sensation, whether you like it or don't like it, just move your attention into your physical body. Notice it, acknowledge it, allow it. You don't have to like it. You can be having thoughts at the same time. And you may notice a settling happens right there. If not, that's okay. We're not trying to force anything here. The 3rd step is to let your belly be soft and breathe deep into a soft belly, offering that breath as a gift. That's the secret sauce here. We're not forcing the body to breathe, because sometimes when we're feeling anxiety, when we try to force ourselves to breathe, it can exacerbate our anxiety and move into a panic attack. And then paradoxically, what we offer as a gift is easier to receive. So breathing into a soft belly. And then the 4th step is to ask for help. Just breathe, activates the right side of the brain, and just notice what comes. Oftentimes it'll be very subtle. It might not make sense. Usually the less it makes sense, the more powerful and helpful it is. It may seem wacky, or it may seem like, that's just my cat. How's that going to help me? This is like super serious. So here's the challenge, is that when you go through the steps, check in, notice, acknowledge, allow, breathe, go to the right brain, ask for help, whatever comes, just immerse your attention in the details of it. You can have your eyes wide open. Someone in the room with you, 6 feet away, may be freaking out. This is a time where you can use your 4 steps, ask for help, whatever comes. It could be dancing naked ladies, it could be grandpas bouncing kids on their knees, it could be flowers with faces, it could be pets, it could be anything. Whatever comes, it's coming from your own inner wisdom. Your psyche knows exactly what the remedy is for you in your system. So if you'll immerse your attention in it, your body, your nervous system, that vagus nerve that we're starting to hear more about, will calm and will settle. And the person 6 feet across the room from you will feel it. And just like guitar strings that hum together, their nervous system will respond in kind. So when you practice these things, this kind of mind-body self-care, this is a way that you are bringing benefit to all of those around you. And not only those in your immediate vicinity, but now, all of a sudden, we've got very metaphysical, because we're saying, I can feel it in the air. I can feel the tension. I can feel the anxiety. I can feel the panic. And it's like, yeah, that's part of your human capacity of empathy and connection to your fellow human, right? And so, yeah. So now that ramps it up, because not only are you feeling yours, but you're feeling theirs, and now it's exponential. So the good news about that is that gives you more inspiration to go within and ask for help. But also, it potentially brings more meaning, because when you're doing these good things for yourself, this mind, body, self-care for yourself, it is bringing benefit to your immediate sphere of influence, but also the collective. So now when people are looking for some sense of calm and stability, they can find it somewhere in the collective, because that is what you are radiating. We are all vibrational remedies for each other. We all have a lot of power to change our state of experience and to support others in changing their state of experience. And this isn't about forcing anything. It doesn't work. It isn't about trying to make somebody else calm down. It never works. This is about taking an opportunity in a high period of challenge to experiment, to explore, to see if it helps. I can't tell you how many clients I've had that are in the worst of the worst of the worst, and they're working with me and they're saying, yeah, like this is going to help either. Now, a little part of me is like, yeah, I may fail. And another part of me is like, it's not me, it's them. All I can do is help them go within, see how easy it can be to go within, access their inner resources, clear their inner clutter, and love their parts back home. So Kayse, what else have you got there?
Beautiful. We've had some people expressing numbness and completely being outside of their body. Is there anything specific? Is that just natural at this time when this is all very abrupt and new? And then things will come back into their body next week, in a few days, in time. But for people who are just unable to feel anything right now, what can you say to them?
I can say that's high spiritual practice. It's a form of anesthesia, right? So if you're going to go have surgery, have your chest sawed open, they give you some heavy duty stuff where, maybe you go completely unconscious, or at least you go numb. All right, so again, this is part of the ingenuity of the human soul and spirit, mind-body connection. So, and of course it's recognized that permanent numbness isn't ideal, right? If your leg is numb, you could fall over and hurt yourself. You can't walk well. When the surgery is over, you want the feeling to come back. You want the life force vitality to move back. So it's actually a meditative state where you are going away from the body sensations for a while because it is overwhelming. So we want to honor that. And the most effective way to help the numbness to do its work effectively and efficiently is to honor it. And from that part that can observe it and recognize it and notice what's happening. So one of the tricks for us is that we will often get identified with the most uncomfortable part of ourselves. And so one of the ways we can think about it is if we're taking care of a little baby and their foot gets caught in a drawer and they cry out, and we hear their cry, and then we go tend to them to find out how can we help. And instead of telling them, oh, stop it, shh, be quiet, oh, you'll be all right, or a bad parent might hit the kid, right? That's happened plenty. We don't want to be that bad parent, right? So first of all, we want to be able to assess what's happening. Okay, your little foot's in the drawer. Let's extract that. Okay. Oh, yeah, let's acknowledge that, notice that. Yeah, allow for the truth of your experience, little one. And then let them know, right here, right now, I'm with you. I'm with you. And it's going to be all right. And we're not talking about next week when, nobody's been paid for a while. Maybe things will be a version of not all right. But right here in this moment, there's an opportunity to connect, body to body with that little one. And this is really a wonderful analogy because for so many of us, the parts that are being activated and overwhelmed are little. They need a strong, powerful protector and guide and presence. And this is part of what we need too. That's why we want to go in and ask for help, and however that shows up for us. And, you know, it could be an angel or Lord Metatron or, you know, whatever you're into, but it probably won't be. It'll probably be something very surprising and unexpected, but wow, will it be the remedy? So this is part of the trick, is going with what is instead of what we've kind of been taught how it's supposed to be. So I'm not sure if that answered that adequately.
It does. Another question we've been getting, many in our Sonoma County community have now been through 2 wildfires and floods, and it's just been one wave after the next.
Yeah.
And they're really struggling right now, even though it's different forms of trauma.
Yeah.
Can you speak to the layered effect of trauma and the unique situation that their souls might be experiencing right now after so much in the last 2 years?
Yeah. So nowadays that's being referred to as complex trauma as opposed to simple trauma. So like I've worked with a person who was in a car wreck and then because of that her milk wouldn't flow and she couldn't feed her baby. But then as soon as we cleared that traumatic episode, then her milk flowed again, she could feed her baby. Right? Simple trauma, just like something happened, it's fixable. All of it is fixable, but when it's layer upon layer upon layer, then it's not usually all fixable at once. It's an unfolding process. And so this is often important for us to know so that we can just give ourselves a break and recognize when we're frustrated because it's still coming up, but there are many layers and they affect our energetic structure. And then our energetic structure becomes part of what supports us as we're moving around in the world, as we're coping and dealing and surviving and wanting to thrive and wanting to serve and get our life done. And so it's like if there were a house at the beach on stilts and all those stilts were rotted and they needed to come out and be replaced. You wouldn't just go in and take them all out, the house would crash down. So it's you assess with some support what's the priority here? What's the hierarchy of priority? And then you shore that up, right? That's part of us connecting to resources to get shored up. And then you clear that clutter and then you replace it with a part of you. This is that reassociating with the dissociated part. And so you're clearing out what is hurting and you're replacing it with what is helpful. But there is this order of priority according to your own inner wisdom. And it's really important to recognize that it's completely natural for waves of it to keep coming up. And so the helpful thing about trauma getting activated, sometimes called triggered, is that it lets us know, it gives us information that there's still this part that is still living in the past in an overwhelming experience, right? So it's like when someone says, I left a part of me back in Vietnam. Then I say, do you want to go back and get it? Because you can. And so with all these overwhelming events, people haven't likely had the time and they haven't had the support to collect their dissociated parts that had to fly away while the overwhelming events were happening so that they could just do what they needed to do. And because some of those parts are so sensitive, and when it's an overwhelming event, you need to send those children to the country while London is being bombed. Right? And then when the bombing's over, you want to go back and collect those little ones. And now they're safe. And not only, when you collect them, not only are you free of the stress that was coming from your connection to those parts, because we can never really disconnect from our parts. We always feel their pain. We always feel their fear. That creates stress in us. when we reconnect them and bring them back home into our hearts, or maybe they want to live in our belly, wherever they want to be. Not only are we now free of that particular stress, but now we have additional life force vitality available to us coursing through our system that gives us more energy, more vitality, more creativity, and new ways to look at things. And the thing to know about when we retrieve and return these parts, once we bring them home, they're safe. So they're just free to frolic while the grown-up deals with all the heavy shit that's going down out here. And so then we're very nourished by those parts that are happy and free and safe and protected inside of us while we're dealing with hard things, because there are hard things we are dealing with and there's more to come.
To that. My next question is, as we are moving through trauma, as many of us are breaking open to heal, to retrieve these parts of ourselves, how do we negotiate the relationships in our current life? Because as we're recreating ourselves and our sense of self, those need to change and shift along with. Can you speak to that now that we're living in very close quarters with our loved ones and will be for some time? Can you speak to that?
Yeah. First thing is to practice that compassion with yourself. And I don't mean force yourself to try to be compassionate. I mean, do the 4 steps, right? I mean, notice that you're sick of the sound of them chewing. You know, you can't stand the way they smell. They're always in your space. You have whatever's going on inside of you. Notice, acknowledge, and allow that as the truth of your experience. Right? This is life, right? And life in close quarters. So notice, honor your experience. That's the key to healing all trauma, and which oftentimes well-intentioned healers try to skip over that part, just help, slingshot us across the chasm from the bad place into the land of milk and honey. But it all starts with honoring your experience. It's natural. It's just natural. It's not wrong. It's not right, but it's true. It's your true experience. So notice what's happening in you, acknowledge it, allow it, give yourself the gift of your breath, and ask for help. And so this is where our sense of humor comes from. This is where, maybe we could say, would you mind putting your earphones on while you're watching that conspiracy theory show? Or whatever it is. So it's a way to connect, to support, so that you can take care of yourself first. And right, we all know the airplane thing, put your own mask on first so that you can help the others. And we all know that, but the predominant amount of our life training has been antithetical to that. So it's really not our first go-to. And so part of the revolution here is radical self-care, radical self-love, radical self-attendance first. And the better you get at practicing this, you'll find you can get it done in 15 seconds or less, and that makes you super available to help the other person. So now that other person or people that you're trapped in close quarters with, now you can practice noticing that annoying chewing that they're doing. Allow it. Notice, acknowledge, allow. And then breathe. And then ask for help. And you might see something like really startling and amusing transposed right over their face at the dinner table. And they might say, what's going on? And however you report that, I'm just in my imagination, I'm using my mind-body skills. And you know what? I really am glad that you're in my life. Or another truth might be, I didn't realize it would be so hard to be in, just the two of us together for so many hours a day, because it's so different than what I'm used to. Which can be an opening for the other person to say, yeah, I didn't want to say anything, but it's been hard for me too. And I love you, but So those 4 steps can save the world. And I didn't make them up, right? I just went together with my clients. It's like, that's it. Okay, we can do this. there's other things. We can bring compassion, we can bring loving kindness, we can bring curious attention, but that's all extra credit. This right now, it's fundamental and essential. And also, I've always been interested in what's most effective the most quickly. Because when I got into this work, I was in excruciating pain. I wanted to blow my brains out. And the only reason I didn't is because I had an infant daughter that I was not willing to abandon. So I had to find a way. And I had to find a way that actually worked and without a lot of flowery extras. Now, don't get me wrong, I love all that flowery. I love ritual and rattling and drumming and saging, and it's all gorgeous. But right now, we're in an up-tempo situation, all of us. We're all on the same journey. And that may be important for some people to know, is that if you imagine that we were in the jungle or in the desert or in the ocean or on the moon, and we're all on this journey in this unknown terrain together, everybody has different eyes, everybody has different ears, and we're all on this journey together, but we're all on different parts of the journey, but we're all on it together. And so each of us, as we're on our own individual journey, we're part of a collective journey. And so in a way, we have each other's backs, or we're creating extra chaos for each other, right? You know, and somebody is on point. And that then, depending on the territory, somebody else may move into the point position. And, you know, that's perhaps a war analogy, but it's oftentimes an appropriate one, and especially when it comes to that central part of ourselves, that sovereign part of ourselves, our inner authority, our true essential nature, the part of us that can observe and witness and feel the responsibility of all the other parts, but also feel the desire to take that, to step into that responsibility and stay as calm as possible and connected to resources and awareness and ability to adapt creatively. So this is what the work is really doing. You know, the 4 steps to do the 3 things is really to help us to come back to that central part of us who can take responsibility and take charge of our inner pack, our inner constellation, our inner family, our inner village, whatever, however it shows up for a given individual. And let them know that just to stay behind me, and I'm going to get you there. And when they know that there's someone that's calm and on it, in charge, they freak out a lot less. And they're a lot more cooperative. And when someone flips out, then everybody stops and gives attention, and because maybe they stepped on a snake. And maybe they need some healing right there. Or maybe they just got overwhelmed and they need everyone to stop and just gather around and be with them and honor their experience.
I think right now, you've been in the healing arts for a very long time, and you bring a lot of wisdom and richness to your practice. And you have spoken with me numerous times about this time we're heading into right now. And it's here. And it almost feels like an impending storm is around the corner, which was, as we know, can be sometimes worse and scarier than the storm itself. So right now that we're in that state, having been able to see that coming, and also to be able to see past that storm, where are we heading, to give people some hope in terms of why are we going through this moment right now?
Yeah, that's such an important question. Thank you for asking it, because of course I've asked it myself many times. It's like, what is the frickin' point? You know, yeah, clean up, heal up, whatever, why? So 2 things. One is that we're going to the eye of the storm, right? So with all the chaos swirling around us, we get sucked out into it, and then we just simply, by the power of our own intention, by our own attention, we can just come back to the eye of the storm, where it's calm. And it's not complicated. We could just remember that there is an I, and we can think about it, and part of us will be there. And the more we notice, immerse, and absorb our attention in the I, ooh, what's it like in here? The more our biology will live that experience. So keep in mind that there's always an I in the storm. And I can only speak from my experience about where we're going. And what I have seen is beauty and people that are happy, and children that are in schooling where they're running outdoors and they are learning what they're interested in learning because they're interested in learning it, and they're supported completely, and they are seen as having unique gifts, talents, and abilities that they carry. And so the way that our world treats children and education is like play. It's radically different. And a little bit of what has actually been foreshadowed in my neighborhood. Now, this thing has just gone down, and it's only been a few days, but in my neighborhood, people are walking more. Okay, right, they're trapped at home, makes sense. But when I'm out on my walks, people are making eye contact with me now, which they didn't before. People are waving at me now, which they didn't before. And people are, they might be up on their balcony, but they want to chat, which they didn't before. Which totally makes sense, because the way things have been, we're so exhausted from our work day and our survival day that we just want to be left alone, right? Which makes total sense. So, but it is basic, authentic, natural human nature to be connected in community, to be kind to each other, to smile and uplift each other, to acknowledge each other. And this is something that more and more on the other side of this is going to be recognized, is that we're not in this predicament because humans are bad. They're greedy pigs that ruin the earth and trample it and use up all the resources. That's not human nature. Just like it's not your cute little dog's nature to bite and scratch and growl and go ballistic and bite people in the throat. That's not your cute little dog's nature. But if your dog had a horrible wound, and as much as it's connected to you and you tried to touch it, it might be very dangerous. So you would have to work with it very carefully. So any animal that is wounded is dangerous and can act in damaging ways. And so because of thousands upon thousands of years of extreme trauma on this planet, human beings have acted in dangerous ways, but it is not their nature. And people are free to argue with me on that, but that's my story and I'm sticking to it.
And you will be here tomorrow, in the Easter here tomorrow, offering a workshop called "Is There a Shaman in You?"
Yeah.
Tomorrow, Saturday. And can you speak a little bit about what that experience will be like?
Yeah. So we have moved the workshop online, and it's not going to be a lecture. So you're not going to be, 3 hours just listening to me drone on how wise I am. It's really, my whole shtick in life is really about how wise you are, how resourceful you are, how amazing you are, how powerful you actually are. And so in this particular workshop, Is There a Shaman in You? Spoiler alert, there is! Well, what does that look like? Does it have feathers and face paint? Yours might. But a shaman is simply a human being who connects to the invisible to bring good back to the community. It could be healing, it could be information, it could be anything. It could be jokes, right? So we are in the time of the shaman now. where every human being their inner shaman is being called forth. The part of you that can have direct connection to the invisible realm and direct revelation from the invisible realm, and be able to bring forth your gifts, talents, and abilities from your own shamanic self, so that the world can be benefited and you can have a whole heck of a lot of fun sharing your gifts. And that word shaman originated in Mongolia, and it's gotten picked up by all kinds of cultures. But it doesn't matter what you call it. Everyone has an aspect in them that is rich with gifts, talents, and abilities that are unique to them, that they need to bring forth. And most of us, with the way the world has been the last several thousand years, we need adversity in order to bring those forth. You know, that's how the rite of passage thing worked. And so, you know, I'm not going to torture anybody in a rite of passage, because guess what? That's already being done. So we're in it. We're in a rite of passage right now. And in a rite of passage, it's a time of adversity, and it's always perceived as a brush with death, you know, and it is. And that could be literal. Some people might die. Some people will die. It could be symbolic. The way that you have lived your life may die. And so this is a time where you reach and you access inner resources that you didn't even know you had, so that you can get through this thing to the other side of it. And when you are on the other side and you realize, I made it, and then you return to community, they recognize you and acknowledge that you're not the same as you were on the other side. And they are willing and receptive to receive the gifts that you carry based on the adversity that you've come through and what you've connected to in that. So that's more of the mythic of what we're doing. But the more practical of what we're doing is I'm going to guide people through these 4 steps briefly, so that they can use them and practice them on their own. And then we'll go in and spend a little longer time. They will connect to resources, you know, wisdom figures that might be represented as parts of themselves, you know, maybe their future self, or maybe their magical child self, or maybe a wizard or a wise or whatever. So we'll connect to resources, we'll clear inner clutter, however that shows up. It could look like arrows in your head, it could look like an axe in your arm, it could look like dark energy, it could look like your mom's words, oh, you'll never amount to it. You know, whatever it is, we'll clear some clutter. And then we will do the soul retrievals. We will call back any parts that are ready, willing, and able to come back home, into your heart, into your belly, wherever they want to be, in, on, or around your body, so that you can reunite with important and critically important aspects of yourself in order to move where you're headed next. And where you're headed is completely between you and your soul. I don't know what a person's given journey is. It might be to die to serve the rest of us, you know, to wake us up and change your minds in some way. I don't know. But if you are going to die, I would much rather see you die connected to your resources, loving your parts, and really steering that death in a way that is most beneficial for you and those that are in your sphere of influence.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
My pleasure, my honor, my purpose. So I want to take a moment to acknowledge you, Kayse, because you created Solstice, and you brought together all kinds of healers and gave them an opportunity to express their gifts in the world. And now, with what's going on, those healers are really naturally in survival mode because they have no income. And we don't know how that's going to go. But because of you being able, because of the work that you've done and the tools that you have and the way you've used them, you have been able to access creative ways to get them supported, even though they're not allowed to touch anybody and make a living. So, and you're not going to stop. You are not going to stop accessing creative ways from your inner resources, in order to serve. So I want to honor that. Yeah, and I feel very fortunate to be able to participate in it. Yeah. Oh, we have 5 minutes. Well, let's do a little, you want to go through the 4 steps, everybody out there in Facebook Live land? This is my first Facebook Live, by the way. How am I doing? Uh-oh.
First, phone up.
Oh, okay, cool. All right. So maybe some of you are like pissed at me. Oh, that thing she said about blah, blah, blah. Good. Notice that. Acknowledge that. Allow that to be just as it is. Maybe some of you are feeling like, oh, there is hope. Oh, whatever you're noticing is happening in your body. It could be emotional, it could be physical sensations you're aware of, it could even be awarenesses that are coming to you. Just notice whatever you're noticing. Could be thoughts, oh, that Gina, oh, what is she doing? Right? Just notice it, acknowledge it, allow it to be as it is. Nothing to release or relax or let go of. Just noticing what is in your unique individual, personal experience. And I'm doing the same. And then let your belly be soft. Just to the degree that you comfortably can. And then breathe. Breathe into your soft belly without forcing. Just as deep and full as is comfortable for you. Do that maybe 3 more times. And as you do, offer your breath as a gift that your body can take or it can leave. And if you accidentally sense feelings that feel kind of good, just notice that, acknowledge that, allow that. And you might even notice 2 different kinds of experiences at the same time. You might notice uncomfortable experiences. At the same time, you notice some comfort moving in and through your body. That's high spiritual practice. People spend zillions of dollars, climb really high mountains to achieve. And just notice how your body is responding to the gift of your breath. If it's changing in any way, or if it's staying just the same. And whatever you are noticing about how your body is responding to the gift of your breath, just acknowledge that and allow it to be as it is. Nothing to change, nothing to resolve, nothing to release or let go of. You're simply checking in, noticing, acknowledging, and allowing, offering the gift of your breath, and noticing what your body does with that. If you find your body settles, softens, just notice that. Acknowledge it and let it be. If you find that things seem to stay just the same, notice that. Acknowledge that and let that be. Good. And with your next deep breath into a soft belly, move your attention to the right side of your brain and allow something to come to mind that feels good to your mind, body, and spirit. It may be something that you are familiar with, something you've heard of or read about, or perhaps it's something you have never yet even imagined. Just breathing to support your receptivity, notice what has come to mind for you that feels good to your mind, body, and spirit. And whether it makes sense or doesn't, whether it's quite vivid or very subtle, just immerse your attention in the details of whatever has come to mind for you. Noticing colors, textures, if it moves, if it makes a sound, if it has a smell, a scent, a fragrance or aroma associated with it. And as you immerse your attention in the details of whatever has come to mind for you, notice what is happening in your body as you immerse your attention in what has come to mind for you that feels good to your mind, body, and spirit. And notice anywhere in your body where good feelings are activated in response to what you are immersing your attention in. And know that each time you do these 4 steps, checking in, noticing, acknowledging, allowing, offering the gift of your breath, and breathing to activate that right brain, and going there with your attention to receive whatever is helpful to you. Know that each time it may be something different. Or you might find that the same thing comes repeatedly over and over and over again. Whatever comes to mind for you, know that you have the power to change your state of experience simply by what you immerse your attention in. And know that you carry with you, wherever you go, whatever is happening, a limitless world of resources that you can easily access through that portal of your right brain. And you can activate your right brain with a soft belly breath. You have the power to calm and stabilize your body, your nervous system. You have the power to access support, the ideal support for you, whatever your circumstances are in the moment. And you carry it with you wherever you go. And I know this for sure, because those partners that have called themselves clients over the last couple of decades have taught me what to believe. And so I challenge you to experiment and see what you notice. And so, Kayse, is there anything else that you want by way of completion for today? Any requests?
No, that was beautiful. Yeah, I just would love these tools to be available to people right now. So you'll be live tomorrow.
Be live tomorrow.
We'll be with Sonoma County.
Yes.
Again in April.
Uh-huh.
And then ongoing, if people wish to find you out in the real world, you're in Marin as well as...
They can find me through Solstice Spa, and they can also go to my website, mindbodyjourneys.com. And as things unfold, then we're working in the background to bring more things available online for wider community. So just check in with Solstice, check in at my website, and yeah, there's lots of exciting creativity to come.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.